Welcome to the Kaioken Dojo. Now, when people talk about Gohan's childhood in Dragon Ball, they usually summarize it like this. Quote, Piccolo trained him. He got stronger. He unlocked hidden power. But that's not really what happened. Gohan didn't just train, he really survived. And when you actually slow down and revisit that Saiyan Saga Survival Arc, it's way darker than most of us actually remember. Alright, section 1, isolation and regret. Let's start with the part that I think people actually gloss over. Gohan was 4 years old. 4, okay? He was kidnapped by a former enemy, thrown into a wasteland, left alone with no food, no shelter, no parents, no explanation. Piccolo doesn't even stay with him. He basically abandons him. Now, from a writing perspective, this of course is genius because Toriyama isn't just making Gohan stronger, he's stripping him of safety. And the first thing we see from Gohan in that environment isn't rage, it's fear. He cries, he calls for mom, he doesn't understand why this is happening, he's completely lost. That wasteland imagery isn't just aesthetic, it really represents emotional exile, and that's important to focus on. He's isolated physically, but also emotionally. No one is coming to save Gohan. And when that realization hits, that's the true beginning of his trauma, in my opinion. Section 2, the monster within. Now, here's where it gets uncomfortable, because Gohan doesn't just have to survive the world around him, he also has to survive himself. Hence, when the Ozaru transformation happens for the first time for him, it isn't just a power-up, it's a complete loss of control. It's subconscious rage, it's generational violence embedded in his DNA, again, out of his control. So when Gohan turns into a great ape, he doesn't choose to do so. He doesn't even remember it. But then at that point, he becomes a weapon, right? And the scariest part is he almost kills Piccolo, which is kind of morbid and hilarious in the whole thing. Like, the only person trying to actually train him and really quote-unquote save him was the same person that he almost inadvertently killed. That moment is huge psychologically because now Gohan isn't just afraid of the wasteland he's been left to, he's also afraid of what he might become. And Piccolo, well, you watch his expressions during that arc, he's not really a harsh teacher. He's trying to study Gohan, and he is studying Gohan, analyzing him, seeing the potential. But then at the same time, he's also seeing the danger, right? And then there's this like unspoken tension that is Gohan a child, or is he just a ticking time bomb that's going to end up destroying the planet? And then there's that Saiyan pod moment when he finally breaks out screaming because, you know, his dad was getting bullied and picked on. And it wasn't just Gohan's power in that moment. It was really his panic. That was his survival instinct. He was fight or flight mode. And at that point, when he broke out of that Saiyan pod, that was fight mode. And that's a child being forced into war before he even understands what war is. Think about it. If you were kidnapped at that age in Gohan's situation and then someone's doing something to your beloved one, you don't know what your reaction is. So Toriyama layers this arc with something so subtle, showing that Gohan's strength isn't really coming from confidence, it's coming from stress. And that's what I think is the heartbreaking thing about what he had to go through that I think fans today are actually, some fans are relatively ignorant in when they have their criticisms about Gohan. They don't actually take into consideration the trauma of his childhood, especially at that point. Section 3, the physical and mental toll. So now let's fast forward, right? Because what happens in isolation doesn't usually stay in isolation. That survival arc that follows Gohan for the rest of the series, why does he hesitate in some of his fights? Why does he struggle with his identity as he gets a little bit older? Why does he avoid training when there's no immediate threat as an adult? Because for Gohan, power isn't fun in the same way that it might be for Goku or Vegeta or some others. I think his power is more trauma triggered. Every major spike in strength comes from emotional overload. You look at Raditz, that response was rage. You look at Nappa, that response was desperation from Gohan. You look at Frieza, that response was grief, having watched all the innocent life Frieza and his men had slain on planet Namek. You look at Cell, that was suppressed anger exploding. And then even Beast Gohan, that transformation isn't hype for him like some fans may think if you're more newer to the series. It's really his protective instinct above everything else. He only unlocks that level when someone he loves is threatened. Now, do you notice the pattern? Gohan doesn't chase power again like Goku or Vegeta or other characters in the series. Power seems to chase Gohan. Power seems to find Gohan. Power seems to put Gohan into the worst situations possible and forces him to respond to that with an amplifier or an equalizer, right? That's what has routinely happened to him in the series. But that's a toll. That's a heavy toll Gohan is having to silently pay that he doesn't get enough respect for. Physically, he becomes one of the strongest beings, not just on planet Earth, not just in Universe 7, but possibly even in the multiverse as of now. Mentally, he's never really wanted that life, and we've known that since he's been a child. But when we see him as an adult, interacting with wildlife, studying, living peacefully, it's not weakness, it's healing. He's trying to build a world, guys, where his 4-year-old Gohan never has to exist again, because why would he ever want to go back to those traumatic points of his life? But Dragon Ball keeps on and keeps on and keeps on pulling him back, and every time he's forced to fight, we are reminded that his survival arc never truly ended. It's really just been a constant evolution of his character and who he is as the son of one of the greatest martial artists in all of Dragon Ball, which of course is Son Goku. Section 4 in closing, the real darkness, and I think this is what makes the arc special in its memory for us. Gohan's childhood wasn't really heroic in my opinion. It was militarized. He was conditioned, trained by fear, motivated by loss, and praised for violence he never asked for to begin with, right? So when fans say, to some circles, Gohan should have stayed the main character, I think they're missing something. And keep in mind, for a personal tad bit, Gohan is my favorite character, but I never thought he should have remained the main character. He doesn't want to be the main character. He wants peace, man. He doesn't want the noise and the drama and the controversy that comes with constantly being involved in conflict. And that's an eternal conflict that I think he's still struggling with today, even post the superhero movie, because he has such overwhelming potential and then a personal desire to not disappoint his loved ones. But it's also what I think makes him one of the most psychologically complex characters in Dragon Ball. I think Gohan's intelligence actually goes over people's heads, not in every situation, but I think the fact that they just look at him as the son of Goku, and they're just like, you have all this potential. Why wouldn't you just want to be the strongest? Guys, that's just not everybody's motivation. And Gohan, as we all know, is very different from his father, even if he has some personality traits similar to him. Gohan, what motivates him is completely different than what motivates Goku, and I've talked about that on this channel quite a bit. So in closing, looking at this from a more reflective and slightly intense perspective, when you rewatch the Saiyan Saga in your next Dragon Ball watch, don't just see the training, man. Try to actually put yourself in Gohan's position. Imagine that isolation. See a child that is surviving actual abandonment. Remember, Goku dies, okay? Like his father dies in the midst of all of that stuff happening. Put yourself in that position. Then you're dropped off in the middle of nowhere by this alien that's telling you, I'm going to come back and pick you up in 6 months, maybe, but you're on your own. Like, that's traumatic, man. See the fear behind his power. Because Gohan's survival arc during that saga, it wasn't about getting stronger. It was about enduring something that no child should have to endure in any situation. But maybe that's why his transformations always feel so different, because they don't feel like they're just ambition driven for the sake of power. They really feel like breaking points for Gohan as an entire being. His existence seems to predicate on him being able to respond to situations and to match them to the best of his ability. We see what happens when he was overpowered in the Future Saga, in Future Trunks' timeline, I should say, where he loses his arm and he eventually loses his life to the fight with the androids trying to protect Trunks. We see that even at that point, his evolution could only take him so far, but he was, one of the only, if not the only survivor left to do anything to stop the androids. That's talk about isolation and being in no man's land again. Again, I'm going to keep saying it. I don't think people actually understand Gohan's character as much as they think they do. You can watch the show, you can watch the anime, you can read the manga. It doesn't mean you really understand the character, even if you've seen the episodes 100 times. Next time you rewatch it, really watch it from a more reflective perspective, not just, oh, this is Dragon Ball. Really try to understand the story Toriyama was trying to paint and tell you with Gohan. It's Kyle Ken Striker. Hope you enjoyed your time at the dojo.